Greetings and welcome to this basic quality management system awareness based on ISO 9001 of 2015. This is brought to you by the Small Enterprise Development Agency, which is the agency of the Department of Small Business Development. I hope and trust that this training is going to benefit and add value to your organizations. And good luck with the awareness. Welcome to Module 2 of our basic quality management system training. We'll briefly discuss the overview of requirements of ISO 9001 2015. We'll also discuss the structure of ISO 9001 and again discuss the clauses under this structure. So we'll just give a brief information about the clauses on context of the organization, leadership, planning, support, operations, performance and evaluation, and then improvement. And we'll lastly conclude on what we discussed. ISO 9001 specifies the requirements that an organization must meet in order to successfully implement a quality management systems. ISO 9001 consists of 10 clauses, that is clause 1 until clause 10. And again, ISO 9001 is aligned to what we call the plan, do, check, and act. That is the PDCA cycle. And only 7 clauses are aligned to this PDCA cycle. So, clause 1 until clause 3, they are only for information purposes. So, we'll discuss only from clause 4 until clause 10, which are aligned to the PDCA cycle. The quality management system structure is as follows. Remember, we said the standard is based or applies the PDCA cycle. That is the plan, do, check, act. The planning part consists of 4 clauses, which are the context of the organization, leadership, planning, and support. As you can see underneath these clauses, there are what we call sub-clauses. And for the doing part or operations, it consists of 7 sub-clauses. This is where you manufacture the actual product or where you offer services to your customers. And in the checking part, we have what we call performance and evaluation. Here we check whether we were able to do our processes according to our plan. And the last part is the acting part. That is where we identify opportunities for improvement. And then we act on them. And then we go back to planning. And it becomes a cycle again. Now that we have discussed the structure of ISO 9001, let's briefly discuss the clauses under this standard. So, as an organization, you need to understand your surroundings. You need to understand the environment that you are operating in. So under this clause, we are going to specify the requirements for your organization to determine your issues, your interested parties, such as customers, employees, regulatory bodies, including what they need and expect from your organization. You also need to determine your scope and the establishment of a quality management system. As a business, you need to know the environment that you operate in. Know the issues that may affect your business. There are many factors that can affect your businesses, either positively or negatively. Some issues you need to understand are your political and socio-economic issues. Your environmental issues, you also need to know the laws affecting your business and ensure that you monitor if those laws change. And you also need to understand shifts in technologies. Some of the issues you might have control over them, such as your company culture, which you can change or influence, but some you don't have any control over them, such as if the legislation change or economic issues. So when the economic conditions change globally, you will be affected one way or another. So your duty as a business is to ensure that you know what might affect your business and always be prepared for any eventuality. Or when those that affect your business negatively, you ensure that their impact are minimized, especially those which you don't have any control over them. So we're saying as an organization, you need to show that you are committed as top management or as a business owner with regard to quality management system. We have already spoken about leadership under the quality management principles in module 1. Now, under this clause, it tells us that leadership must show evidence that they are indeed committed to this quality management system. This can be demonstrated by leadership in taking accountability, in providing resources, employing the right people, employing the correct number of people, buying equipment, providing monitoring and measuring resources, and also supporting other management roles, the supervisors, the team leaders in executing their responsibilities. During the normal course of your business, you will identify opportunities in the market that your business can take advantage of. But with business opportunities comes risk as well. So as an organization, you need to identify what these risks are, which might present themselves, and you also need to plan and come up with ways of minimizing or eliminating the impact of this risk on your organization if they do happen. Say you are in a business of manufacturing surgical masks and there is a shortage of surgical masks in your country. This presents a good opportunity for a business to make more money. But with this opportunity, there is a risk of theft of your stock. Now, how can you counter this risk? You can do that by employing security personnel, by installing CCTV cameras. By doing so, you will ensure that these risks are minimized or eliminated. And during the development of quality management system, you need to identify how you are going to support that initiative. So you need to specify the requirements for the provision of resources needed, such as the people, including their capability and capacity, meaning providing sufficient number of personnel and who are also competent to do the job. Again, you need the infrastructure, such as your buildings, machines, and conducive environment for the operation of your processes, and monitoring and measuring resources, such as your measuring tapes, scales, thermometers, pH meters. In terms of personnel, you need to identify who needs what kind of training for them to be competent in their specific jobs. you need to provide this training, and after, you need to review its effectiveness. Does this training that you've provided give you the result that you anticipated? Is there a change in behavior after gaining the additional skills? And again, every employee must know that if they don't comply with quality management system requirements, it can lead to customer complaints, which can drive customers away, and ultimately the business will no longer be making money, which means that security of their jobs might be in danger. Now, if you are in a business of providing services to your customers, now it's time to ensure that you are getting ready to provide those services to your customers. If you manufacture products, now it's time to get your raw materials. It's now time to get all your processes in place to ensure that you are able to convert those raw materials into finished products. So under this clause, it gives the requirements for the organization in planning, implementation, and control of processes needed to meet the requirements for the provision of products and services. So far, you have planned for resources, your goals, policies, procedures, and checklists, which will enable you to manufacture products and offer services. And now you actually get to the actual manufacturing floor to produce products or getting ready to provide the services. Say you are required to provide security services to your customer. At this point, you will get the company security policy, registers to be used, checklist, get sufficient and qualified security personnel. You also need to know what specific tasks are to be done, such as which patrol areas must be covered, how often, and which tools to use. As an organization, you must understand what your customers specifically want from you in terms of products and services. You need to determine measures or monitoring mechanisms which must be put in place to ensure that products or services remain under your control during production, so as to not wait until the product or service has been completed and then realize that things went wrong and find that by that time it is too late to correct. In case you manufacture product, such measures can include monitoring measurements such as length, your weight, mass, temperature while you are manufacturing, and ensure that they remain within specifications until they become finished products which are compliant. Under this clause, your focus is to manufacture products or provide services which will be accepted by your customers. Now we have planned for our quality management system. We have provided those services to our customers. We have manufactured those products. Now it's time to check whether what we have done in terms of provision of services and manufacturing of those products was according to our planning. This brings us to this clause on performance and evaluation, and it gives us the requirements on the monitoring, measurement, and analysis of processes in order to ensure valid results. Here, you must determine what must be measured. This is after the products were manufactured or services rendered, and you do this in order to determine the effectiveness of your processes. You must decide on what you are going to measure. For example, you can decide to measure your customer satisfaction. Here, you want to know if your customers were satisfied with your products or services. Did they get the correct products during delivery with the correct sizes? Were the products not broken? Were they satisfied with the time taken from purchase to delivery? But after gathering this information, you need to analyze what was measured. So after collecting this information, what does the information tell you about your processes? This analysis should tell you whether you experience a lot of problems at a particular area in your process or a lot of problems during specific times of the day, week, or month. And having analyzed this information, you will then be able to zoom into that particular area, then identify and resolve the problems which might have occurred there. Now, with regard to the PDCA cycle, so far we have planned for our quality management systems. We have already manufactured products, we have offered services, we have measured our performance, we know where we are not doing well because we have evaluated the data that we got and is pointing fingers at certain areas in our organization where we are not doing well. So it brings us to the clause on improvement. This clause basically tells us what to do when things go wrong with your processes and how you can identify opportunities for improvement. Say your product you manufacture does not conform to customer specifications, or your customers complain about your services. How do you solve this, and how do you ensure that these problems do not get repeated in your organization? Let's have a look on the video in the next slide on how you can solve your problems using what we call the Firewise technique.
Hi, my name is Sadia and I'll be explaining the Firewise technique today. The Firewise technique was developed in the 1930s by Sakichi Toyoda, founder of Toyota Industries. It is a simple problem-solving tool which allows the user to discover the root cause or causes of a problem by asking the question why 5 times. We will explore this topic through the use of an example, but first we need to distinguish our causes from our effects. Let us assume that this tree represents a problem. Looking at it, we may decide that the very obvious portions of the tree represent the causes of the problem. However, the Firewise technique will show you that these obvious segments are not usually the cause of a problem, but rather are symptoms of a deeper issue. Very often we try to solve a problem, but all we do is treat the symptoms, and meanwhile the problem still exists unscathed. So now we can see that the tree's branches and leaves represent symptoms of the problem. It's much like having the flu. We try to treat our coughs and our headaches, attacking the symptoms instead of the flu itself. The Firewise technique will help us dig deeper to discover the root cause of the problem. Let's look at an example. Imagine that you work in a chocolate manufacturing company as a quality assurance technician. Yep, that adorable panda bear is you. Your company has discovered that the jars of chocolate spread produced on the last few batches are uneven. Where a jar should have been 13 ounces, some contain 12.5, 12, 13.2 ounces, and so on. So you may ask yourself, why? Why are the levels of chocolates uneven? And you may come to the conclusion that line workers in charge of checking the levels of the jars are not doing their job. Now we can chalk this bottling issue up to human error. But how about we take a closer look? You go to the line workers and ask, why aren't the jars filled to 13 ounces? And they respond by saying that the spout which releases chocolate into the jars becomes clogged often. Why does the spout get clogged? Because the pipelines are too cold, causing the chocolate to thicken and the spout to clog. Why haven't the pipeline temperatures been altered? The technicians have not been informed of the problem as yet in order to adjust the temperature. Why haven't the technicians been informed? We reported the issue last week when we first experienced the problem, but the paperwork is still being processed. So now, after asking the question why 5 times, we've determined that the real issue is not that the line workers weren't doing their jobs, but rather the root cause is administrative in nature, as response time to reported issues are not being dealt with in an efficient manner. We must now develop a countermeasure to address the issue and ensure it is eliminated. Our countermeasure may be to prioritize reports based on urgency. The 5-why problem-solving method is best used for finding the root cause of simple problems. Sometimes we may only need to ask the question 3 or 4 times to reach the root cause. Other times we may have to ask why 6 or 7 times. The important thing to remember is that to solve a problem, we must determine the root cause and treat it immediately if we want to ensure quality in our work. Some steps to follow when applying the 5-why technique. Don't treat the symptoms and expect the problem to go away. Ask why until you determine the root cause. Develop a countermeasure to combat the root cause or causes. Thank you for watching, and I wish you the best of luck. Happy problem solving!
Created using Powtoon.
In conclusion, we have discussed the structure of ISO 9001. We discussed all the clauses that fall under this standard. We also said ISO 9001 is aligned to what we call the PDCA cycle, the Plan, Do, Check, Act. We discussed all the clauses that fall under each of these part of the PDCA cycle. We've discussed the clauses that fall under the planning part, the doing part, the checking part, and the acting part. And we said the PDCA cycle is a continuous improvement cycle, which means you will plan, do, check, and act. You identify opportunities where you can improve. After identifying them, you go back to planning. You do, you check, you act. And after identifying those opportunities for improvement, you go back to planning. So it becomes a continuous cycle. And if you don't have any quality management system in your organization, let this information that you have learned here be a starting point. Build on it bit by bit until you have ISO 9001 quality management system in place in your organization. Okay, now that we are done with our basic quality management system training, please do feel free to also check this other training awareness as well. And for any training questions or inquiries, feel free to send your email to onlinetrainingfeedback@seda.org.za. And please indicate on the subject line the name of the training that you are inquiring on. Thank you. Thank you for your attention, and hope that the information that you have gathered here will add value and contribute to the success of your organization. And for any other information that you'd like to know about Seda, please visit our website, which is www.seda.org.za. Thank you.